Hello digital women, my name is Amy and today I'm going to be talking about bulk creating photo content for your social media channels. I thought it'd be quite interesting to introduce myself quickly. So I am Amy from Muifi Photography and I've been a professional photographer for the past 6 years, but I have been doing photography since I was about 4 years old. So I kind of know what I'm doing. Kind of. In today's skill session, we're going to be talking about why it's important to bulk create content, how you can set a scene, setting up the best light, equipment that you can use, and phone editing to make all of your photos look consistent with what you've got already. I think it's really important that you consider what you've already got within your library so that you can bring in some more content that will work alongside it rather than clashing with it. And then right at the end, we're going to go over some scheduling tools that I personally adore and I hope that you guys will like too. So first of all, I wanted to talk about setting the scene. So when you're taking your own brand photos, I think it's important to remember the 3 core things that you want to be portraying in them. So you want to be showing your brand colours, you want to show your values, and you also want to show a little bit of your personality and just not just be taking pictures of random things, but things that associate with your brand. So a good example of finding ways to bring in your brand colours is to use pen pots, to use pencil cases. Maybe if your colours are green, you want to bring in some plants, or I guess there are other plants that are different colours that you could bring in. Picture frames. It all seems very simple, but definitely it's something that's good to consider because you want to have those subtle little hints to your brand colouring without it being super overpowering. I think that it's quite nice to just have that consistency with all of the colours running throughout your feed, and it just means that your photos are instantly recognisable to anyone who sees them. I'm going to be doing the setup in my office today, but obviously you can apply these rules to any different space that you have. If you don't have an office, you could use your living room, or if you don't think that applies to your brand, you could obviously use a coffee shop once we're out of this whole mess. And other places that you could use, maybe you can do some outside, maybe you can do them in a co-working space if you hire one for the day and you just want to create a load of content. And yeah, I think it's about getting creative, thinking about all of those different places that you could use within your brand and just make sure that they align with all of your values. So if you are someone who's quite relaxed, you might not want to choose a co-working space because that's going to come across a little bit more corporate. If you want to be a little bit more chill, you might consider using a home office or maybe even your living room, like I've said before. So what I'm going to do to get my space ready for shooting is I'm going to take away any unnecessary objects. I'm going to put a few different things in to make the space more appealing and more visual for my brand. I'm going to make sure that it aligns with the current images that I have on my social media, just to make sure that it's all going to fit well together. Here's a few examples of mine and why I think that these will also work with what I already have. And then we're going to get shooting. So as you saw there, I've actually removed quite a lot of personal objects from my desk. This is because I think that they're a huge part of my personal life, but maybe they're not something I want to showcase online to the whole wide web all of the time. So I've respectfully moved those off of my desk and I just have a few little personal photos that still align with my brand. There's their Polaroids and also the little photos that you get in a photo booth. I feel like that works because I'm a photographer, but obviously it's going to be different for whatever your brand is. Okay, so let's talk tools. I'm not going to go and tell you that you need to buy all of these different things to make your photos look awesome. I want you to be able to do the best with what you've already got and maybe just supplement with a couple different things as you learn to love photography more and more. Whenever I talk about the love of photography, I start to smile because I'm a cringy person. Let's move on, okay? So here are the tools that I am going to be using to take the photos today. But if you don't have them all, you can switch them out for different things, and I'll let you know while we're going through them what you could possibly use instead. Today I'm going to be using my phone, which is a Huawei P30 Pro. Most smartphones these days have awesome cameras, so honestly don't have to worry too much. You're going to be able to create something pretty cool with whatever you've got. I am also going to be using a phone stand just like this one. I got this from an event. It has brand on it, which is why I can't show you the other side. But they're really, really handy to use, and you will probably pick one up at any trade show that you go to. If you don't have one of these, then you can definitely just squish your phone together with a couple of different books or something heavy in front of it. You can definitely make a makeshift stand. You don't need one of these. I am also going to be using a ring light. You definitely don't need a ring light. You can use the natural light that you have around. I personally don't have any light in my office because the window backs onto a brick wall, so I kind of need one because without that it's pretty dark in here. This is the light that comes through my window. So yes, what I will do with this is I will generally just point it to the ceiling just to give a little bit more light, and you can also change the colour temperature, which is really handy if you are wanting to take photography more seriously. If you don't have a ring light like I do, you can also use any other lamps or lights that you have in your house. Just make sure that you're bouncing the light off the walls so it isn't overpowering your face, proper blasting your highlights out and making you have weird lights in your eyes. As you can tell right now, you can't see any lights in my eyes because I don't have the ring light directly on me. You may have seen some beauty gurus, they actually really like the effect when you've got the little rings in your eyes, but personally, I'm not a fan. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna set up some shots. I'm gonna show you what I'm doing as I am taking all the photos, and then we will go into editing them afterwards. So as you can see, I'm just setting up the shot, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my phone to square mode so it's easier to take the photo in square. If you're doing it for Instagram, it makes life so much easier. Obviously, if you're taking this for other social media platforms, choose the best size for you. And as you can see, I'm just moving around different props, trying different things out, and just making sure that all of the props that I want in the photo are showing their best way. I will always set up the shot and then I will move it about while I'm looking through the screen. It's important when you're taking all these photos that you're kind of keeping in mind what you could talk about for each picture. If you're just taking random photos of like a plant, what does that plant mean? What are you going to talk about in the caption, and how are you going to make the most out of that content? Okay, so now that we've got our photos, as you can see here, I am going to bring them into my editing app. Now I use VSCO. I think it is a fantastic app to use. It is free, or you can pay I think £12 a year and you can access even more of their filters and their effects. And it's just an all-round really great app. I believe you can get this on every single phone. I had it on my iPhone and I now have had it on all of my Android phones since I started using it. They constantly do updates as well, which is fantastic. So as you can see, I've kind of got a little library of all of the images here that match my theme. I did actually recently change my theme on my Instagram, so that's why you may notice that there is a difference in that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import my favourite of each photo. What you can do is you can hold down to see what they look like. That's horrendous. I actually quite like that. I think we're going to go with this one. That one is my favourite from this one. I like that one the most. Cool. I may actually import the picture of me doing this video as well. Let me see which one I like the most. I like that one. Cool. So what we're going to do to edit these is I have already got some presets ready. So generally what I would do is I would just copy the edits and then I would paste them on. So I'm going to quickly show you this first, and then I'm going to show you how to create your own completely from scratch edit. So as you can see, that's pretty much done most of the work for me. There's the before, there's the after. You can see they're slightly green toned because that's how I like my photos. I sharpen it a little bit more. I think I'm just going to do a tiny little tweak and bring the highlights down. and maybe up the contrast just a tiny little bit more to make all of those little wood cracks pop. So that is generally how I edit my photos now, but obviously to get to that point I had to make my own preset. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you on one of my images how we can create that preset. So double tap on the photo and then click the edit. Now you're going to be confronted with loads of different filters, and you can actually start off with one of these. My favourite is F2, so that's what I'm going to put on my image. As you can see, it's super green toned, it's a little bit too contrasty for me, and it kind of blurs the image slightly, which I'm not about. But I do like the tones that it gives the image, so I'm going to leave that on and then I'm going to adjust it from there. So what I would suggest is going through and finding a filter that you really like and then starting as that as your base point. Just please don't choose this one, it's atrocious. What I will generally do once I've put a preset on is I will reduce it to maybe about 5.5 so it's not overpowering the image. I'll click this, and I'm always constantly checking how it looked before and how it looks now so that I'm not overdoing the edit. Sometimes when you've just first started using an editing app, it's so easy to just over edit, make it look super contrasty, so we're not going to do that. She says as she ups the contrast just a little bit. I also really like to over sharpen images that are going to go on social, especially for Instagram, because they just kill the quality and I think it looks really nice when you over sharpen them. What I'm also going to do for this image to try and even out all of the tones, I'm going to up the shadows a little bit because my shadows are quite dark in this. And now that I've taken away the contrast of the shadows, I'm going to up the contrast just a little bit again. Now, as you can see, the contrast has made it slightly yellow. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the white balance and we're going to cool it down just a little bit. Lovely jubbly. I always like to add a little bit of clarity. That's what clarity does. But you probably just want to add like 1.4. Not too much, don't go crazy. And then adjust the exposure to your liking. I like mine to be a little too bright. And then I think that's pretty much done. I might actually up the contrast a tiny little bit once more just because I love a contrasted image. But as you can see, that is the before. This is the after, and you can really tell that it matches with the rest of my feed. And now what I'm going to do once I've made that preset is I'm going to copy that across all of the photos, paste edits, and then I'm just going to check that they all look good. This one's become slightly overexposed, so I'm going to just bring that down a little bit, add a little bit of sharpness, and then save that. This one looks absolutely perfect. This one I might up the exposure slightly and add a tiny little bit more contrast. And that one looks good because that's one we did earlier. This one is slightly blue because it was a different setup. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make that slightly warmer. Crop that down into a square so it matches all the other images. And that's all done as well. And as you can see, I've made them very consistent with all the rest of the images that I have taken. And of course, these images that I already had in my library were kept in mind while I was doing these. And now I just wanted to show you one of my very favourite Instagram schedulers because it has changed my life. I actually personally don't do my scheduling. Oh my gosh, shock horror. My amazing VA Emily O'Neill does it for me, but I input everything into this and then she will fill out all of the different captions. So the nice thing about using Later is you have this awesome preview post schedule. So I'm totally showing you all of my content for the next month, but hey ho. So as you can see, you can drag about everything and see it as if it was your actual feed, which is so handy, especially if you're trying to keep everything consistent and you don't want to keep posting things and then taking them down. This really lets you drag things about and see what it's going to look like before it goes live. You can actually also use this for Facebook. I don't personally use it because I prefer to post on Facebook on the fly, but it's handy to know, and you can see it in a weekly view or a monthly view. The really nice thing about Later as well is it's completely free for one profile per social media platform. So if you're only using it for yourself, then it's going to work really well, and you can do 30 posts per platform, so that's at least one a day on most months. I hope you guys have found this useful, and I'm so excited to see all of your photos and all of your posts on social media now that you know exactly how to bulk create content. And yeah, I'm going to be in the comments answering any of your questions, so if you have any, please let me know and I will be happy to help.